I don't always read that. People very willing to tell me that. But I don't think I am. I'm a perfectionist with myself, but not necessarily with everybody else.
There are letters that change nothing about history, and yet change everything about how we feel it. Princess Diana's private correspondence belongs to that rare category. These were not documents written for the world. They were written for specific people, in quiet moments, in her own hand, on royal stationery, when the cameras were off and the palace gates were closed. And what they reveal about her eldest son, Prince William, is something no official biography or royal documentary has ever fully captured. The story of these letters is, at its heart, a story about a mother running out of time and knowing it. For years, the people closest to Diana kept her letters quietly and carefully, not because they were told to, not because of legal obligation, but because they understood, in a way the general public could not, that what Diana had written to them was sacred. It was the real her, unedited, unfiltered, and completely unaware that one day the whole world would be reading over her shoulder. Among the most important recipients was Violet Collison, the head housekeeper at Park House on the Sandringham estate, where Diana grew up. Collison had been a fixture of Diana's earliest years. She witnessed the Spencer family's happiest mornings and its most devastating losses. When Diana's mother left the family home in 1967 and the household was fractured, Collison remained. She was stability in an unstable childhood, and Diana repaid that loyalty with something far more valuable than money or recognition. She repaid it with honesty. Even after Collison retired, even after Diana became Princess of Wales and was followed by press photographers on every continent, she would find small windows of time during visits to Sandringham to slip away and have tea with her old friend. And she wrote to her. Regularly. Intimately. Without pretense. Collison passed away in 2013 at the age of 89, having never sold a single letter, never spoken to the press about their contents, and never allowed a journalist or biographer anywhere near them. After her death, her family discovered the complete collection, untouched and fully intact. When those letters went to auction at Sorter's Fine Art Auctioneers in Essex on July 30th, 2024, they sold for £51,850, nearly 10 times the estimated value. One letter alone, written about the newborn Prince Harry in September 1984, fetched £13,000. These are not rumored documents or second-hand accounts. They are authenticated, verified letters in Diana's own handwriting, reported by CNN, the BBC, and major international news organizations. The letter that draws the most emotion from those who have read it was written on September 25, 1984, just 10 days after Harry's birth. Diana wrote it on Kensington Palace stationery, thanking Collison for a gift for the new baby. She described the staggering public response to Harry's arrival, the mountains of flowers, the overwhelming warmth from the British public, the sense of being almost breathless from the sheer scale of it all. But the heart of the letter was not about Harry. It was about William. Diana described her eldest son, not yet 2.5 years old, and the way he had responded to his new baby brother's arrival. She wrote with pure, uncalculated maternal delight about how William could not stop showering Harry with hugs and kisses, how he guarded the baby with a fierce tenderness that left her and Charles barely able to get close to the newborn themselves. She called it wonderful to watch. These were words written for one person, an elderly woman in Norfolk, and they carry the weight of that intimacy. There is nothing performative in them. There is nothing designed for public consumption. There is only a young mother, overwhelmed with love, describing what she sees when she looks at her two sons, discovering each other for the very first time. She returned to this same image in correspondence with Cyril Dickman, the longtime steward at Buckingham Palace, who was among her most trusted friends. In a letter dated March 2nd, 1985, she used almost identical language to describe William's devotion to Harry. The repetition is telling. This was not a detail Diana mentioned once and moved on from. It was something she came back to because it genuinely filled her with joy. The image of William, small, blonde, barely old enough to understand what a brother was, refusing to leave Harry's side was one of the things that made her happiest in those years. A Christmas letter from the same period, also written on Kensington Palace stationery, offers a glimpse of William's personality that now feels almost unbearably poignant. Diana wrote with affectionate exasperation that William had discovered the wrapped Christmas presents before she could hide them properly, and had torn into the paper before anyone could stop him. She added, with clear amusement, that she could hardly blame him because she had exactly the same problem with waiting, and that he appeared to have inherited this particular impatience directly from her. It is a small moment, but small moments are what make a person real. The letters from Diana's final years carry a different weight. By the mid-1990s, she was no longer simply a young mother writing about her children's first Christmases and baby milestones. She was a woman who had survived a public unraveling of her marriage, who had navigated years of palace hostility, and who sensed, with a clarity she expressed in writing, that she might not have as much time as she needed. In January 2020, Paul Burrell, Diana's personal butler from 1987 until her death, shared a photograph of a private letter she had written to him. He published it online in the context of Prince Harry and Meghan stepping back from senior royal duties, saying the words felt as urgent and alive as they had when she first wrote them. In that letter, Diana wrote about William and Harry with the focused intensity of someone composing a message they hope will outlast them. She expressed her love in terms that were neither sentimental nor vague. She wrote about the values she had tried to pass on to her sons: empathy, resilience, openness, and she expressed her deep hope that those qualities would grow in them throughout their lives, giving them the strength and stability she feared the institution of the monarchy might otherwise erode. She referred to these qualities as the seeds she had planted. That phrase carries an extraordinary weight when you hold it against everything that followed. Diana died when William was 15 and Harry was 12. She was not there for their adolescence, their university years, their first experiences of love and loss, their early public lives. She was not there to answer questions, to offer comfort, or to correct course when things went wrong. Whatever she had given them, whatever she had managed to instill, had to continue growing without the gardener. She planted seeds and never saw the harvest. Among all the words Diana committed to paper across her lifetime, one line has emerged as particularly significant. In another letter shared by Burrell, written during the mounting pressures of her final years, she wrote in her own hand that she would look up and laugh and love and live. It is the kind of line that reads differently depending on what you know about when it was written. Knowing the context, the surveillance, the isolation, the fear, it becomes something close to a declaration. She was choosing, consciously and in writing, to orient herself toward joy rather than bitterness, toward love rather than defeat. In 2020, Prince William publicly shared that line. He said he had come across it while going through old papers, and that it had stopped him completely. He chose to share it in the context of his brother and Meghan beginning their new life outside the royal family, saying it expressed exactly what his mother would have wanted for them. It was one of the very few times William has ever publicly referenced a specific piece of his mother's private writing, which makes the moment significant. He did not reach for something grand or ceremonial. He reached for a single quiet line that his mother had written in her own hand, and he offered it as a gift to his brother at a moment of family strain. Running beneath all of Diana's letters about William is a consistent vision of the kind of man, and eventually the kind of king, she hoped he would be. She wanted him to carry authority without losing warmth. She wanted him to understand what suffering felt like from the inside, rather than observing it from a respectful distance. She wanted him to choose people over protocol, to look into eyes that the world had looked away from, and to make those people feel seen. These were not abstract ideals. They were lessons she had lived out herself, in hospices and homeless shelters and hospital wards, and she wanted them to continue in him. William's Homewards Initiative, launched in 2025 to address homelessness across the United Kingdom, reflects precisely that inheritance. In his public letter about the program, he wrote with a directness and personal warmth that clearly echoes his mother's voice. To mark what would have been Diana's 64th birthday in July 2025, he chose charitable action over ceremony, consistent with everything she had modeled for him. Diana's letters were never truly lost. They were simply being kept safe by people who understood their value better than any auction house ever could. They were waiting for a world finally quiet enough to hear what a mother had been trying to tell her son all along. That love is not a feeling that disappears when the person who gave it is gone. It lives in the choices we make, in how we treat strangers, and in whether we choose, on the hardest days, to look up and laugh and love and live.